Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm going to go through an exercise on how to do a password recovery in a Cisco router. Why would you want to do a password recovery? Well, it could be two reasons. One, you've got a router on your network that's got a password protection and you've either lost the password or the person who configured it's left the company. Or you've just bought some random router on eBay for your lab practice and it's got some kind of config on there which has got password protected and you can't break into it. So all these reasons why you'd want to do a password recovery. Bearing in mind, please be careful. If this is a network router, you need to follow the instructions carefully not to lose your existing config, because it's easily done. If you're doing a password recovery, you can easily overwrite the existing config and then you'll be in big trouble for your network because you won't have a copy of the config. So please make sure you follow the instructions carefully. If you want to retain the config, you have to follow it step by step. Okay. If you don't want to config, then you just want to wipe it clean, and you can miss some of these steps later on. But I'll go through that in clearer detail as we go along. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is get your Cisco router and connect your blue Cisco cable to it into the console port. And then the console cable then connects to your laptop, and you need to kick off a terminal emulation program like TerraTerm, PuTTY, or HyperTerminal. All of those will work fine, or whatever terminal emulation program you got. But you need to make sure that your settings are correct. So you need to make sure that your terminal emulation settings are 9600 baud rate, no parity, 8 data bits, 1 stop bit, no flow control. Once you got it connected, and you can see as you power up the router, you can see it's trying to boot up, and you can see the writing on the router. You need to break into it. So during the power cycle, within 60 seconds, you need to press the break key on the terminal keyboard. And what the break key will do, it takes you into a different mode called ROM monitor mode. And once in ROM monitor mode, you can start doing your process of recovery. What I found is that I've got a Dell Latitude and it doesn't have a break key. So I found that you could try using the Control Alt function and pause button, or the Control Alt function and F12 button, which are equivalent to the break key on the terminal emulation. I've also got a table here which has got a guide to all the different methods of how to do the breaking on different terminals and operating systems. So please feel free to look at my website and go for that. Okay, so let's get on with it. So if we just reduce this down a little bit, and I've got my my terminal emulation program here. Let's make sure we can see that as well. Okay, so there we go. So we're going to do a power cycle, and then we're going to break into it. Okay, so power on. So Control function Alt and F12, and there you go. It's broken straight into it and taken you into the ROM monitor. It's called RMON mode. If we do a quick question mark, you can see all the commands available. So this is a very small subset of the iOS available in ROM monitor mode. So it allows you to do recovery of a system. So if you wiped a flash, this will be your last resort to help you recover. But we're doing the password recovery, and the main command we're interested in is this confreg command. And what that will do, the command we need to do here is confreg 0x2142. Confreg 0x2142. Okay, what that does is that this particular bit, the 4, is what it's doing is changing the config register value. The default value is 0x2102, but what that 4 is doing is that it's telling the router not to read the startup configuration file. So it's telling it to ignore the startup configuration file and boot up as though there was no config on the router at all. Okay, so it says now you must do a reset to power cycle, all right, or power cycle. So you can either power it off at the plug, or you can just do a reset, or you can do an I as well. So just do a reset, and it's going to now reload. Okay, so we'll let that reload. I'm going to pause the video because it takes a few minutes. Okay, so here we are back again. The router is reloaded and it comes up with your initial configuration dialog mode, right? So you need to be careful here. You shouldn't type yes to this one because otherwise it will start doing the configuration dialog and it will overwrite your existing config. So if this is a network router and you want to save the config, you will lose everything. So at this point, whether you want to be careful not to type in the wrong letters here, so you need to make sure you say no to that and press enter. So once you press no, so we're on step 8 here, it's finished. It's going to finish its boot up process. Here we go, and you should get a router prompt. And there we go, so we're ready to go. So at the moment it's showing that it hasn't got any configuration. It's booted up like a brand new router. Again, you need to be careful. If this is a network router, you don't want to start overwriting your configuration. So you go into the enable mode, right, and we're just following the instructions. Yeah, so I've got my hash prompt. Now here in step 10 I've got clearly stated that if you want to save the existing config, then you need to carry on following the steps. If you don't care about the existing config and you just want to wipe it clean, then please go to the step 17. Otherwise, you need to carry on, right? So we're going to carry on. So I'm going to just show you a couple of commands, right? If you do a show startup configuration, you can actually see that what the router has got. So this is the actual commands I've got on the router, and you can see that there is a full set of configs there. But if you look at the show running config, there's no configuration on there at all. It's a blank workspace. So this is where you need to be careful. So if you want to save your existing network config, what you need to do is a copy startup config to running config. You must get this right, otherwise you will lose your configuration. But as soon as I type this, everything that's in my startup config will now become my running configuration. And it asks you to confirm, and you say yes, destination file, and it will take a few seconds. There we go, it's ready to come up, and literally there you go. You see, so my host name has changed because that's what was in the startup config, and it's ready to go. So if you now do a show run config, it actually has all the configurations that you have on your Cisco router that you had previously. So if we are following these steps, so I've done my copy run start. I've got my warning there to you guys. If this is a network router, please make sure you don't overwrite your configuration, otherwise you will lose everything, right? And then finally we're going to start changing the enable secret password. So we've now recovered the configuration. We're into the enable mode. Go configuration T, and then type in enable secret and change your password to whatever you want. So we'll just go for Cisco, right? Once we've done that, you now need to change the config register value. I'm just going to show you quickly what the config register value is. See that? Config register is 0x2142. So what that will do is always ignore the startup config. So we need to change that back now. Conf t, and then the command is config register 0x2102. Once you've done that, because you've changed the password and you copied your startup to your running config, you can now safely do a write memory or a copy run and then start, and it says confirm, and you confirm. It's now done. Your password recovery is complete. If you reload the router now, confirm, you should be able to get into it with your password that you've just configured, and your configuration will be safe as well. So I'm going to pause the video while that boots up. Okay, so we're back again, and the router is booted up. And if you go into enable mode, and now you put in your password, which is Cisco, and voila, you're in. So your password recovery has been successful. One thing to note, if you do a show IP interface brief, when you do a password recovery, it automatically puts all the interfaces into shutdown mode. So you need to make sure you go back into conft and then unshut all the interfaces that you want. So fast Ethernet 0, do a no shut, interface fast Ethernet 1, no shut, and so forth. Whatever interfaces that are live, you need to bring them back up again and then do a write mem. And that's it. You're done. That's password recovery. So I hope you found that useful, and thank you very much for listening.